All right, let's start talking about our temperaments. And as you were in the office, you got to meet my little friends. You got to meet the golden retriever, which is the supine temperament. So let's talk a little bit about the supine. Now, you'll find if your paperwork has the word supine on there, then this applies to you in different areas. So let's review some of the supine characteristics. The supine is really the animal really fits this temperament because of their friendliness, loyal. They're really not a vicious kind of dog. But as it relates to people, they too are often very sweet. They tend to have a very kind, other others focused disposition. When I've met supines, one of the things that stands out to them is their care for everyone else in the room. Remember the indirect that we talked about, where there's just a little expressed but a lot wanted. That is the typical supine. Which, if you look up the word supine, it literally means bowing or on your back, belly up, which is a picture of a dog doing this. That's not necessarily bad, but it's extremely vulnerable. And so we find the supines tend to be very vulnerable people. They tend to, here's what I've noticed in social settings, they go first in sharing a real, maybe stressful thing, because, and that almost contradicts that passiveness, but they so crave others to be vulnerable that they're more willing to overshare maybe something that others might hold back, and because they crave genuine authenticity. They really stress when people are being cool, distant, or political. They tend to be high relational, emotionally connected, and very caring. They tend to look up at people and at mankind. They tend to see the good in others while looking at their flaws and often many of the things that they feel they need to improve on. One of the things you'll find a supine or a golden retriever doing often is they're in a book or on videos constantly improving themselves because of their belief that they're not enough, not smart enough, good enough, fast enough, whatever, because they tend to look up at others being better. And this is a sense where they're very teachable, they're very astute, and they very much want to learn Bible. They want to learn classes. They love the world of counseling. But one of the tendencies is they can latch on to a leader, and they'll tend to become very dedicated to them, at times too much. They take their faith walk very sincerely. This is a person whose hands are raised in worship, and they often cry. This is a very powerful part of who they are in their emotional area, because they sincerely long to walk and talk and connect to the Lord, but also with people. They are usually attracted to other temperaments that are a little more assertive, brave, and outgoing, because they tend to have more of a shyness. They'll latch on to your more black and white natured people. Uh, this kind of person makes another person feel comfortable because they'll de-self. Now you can see how that can go extreme, but by de-selfing, they can be others focused. We think of Martha in the Bible, where she was so busy doing so many other things that she missed Jesus in her midst. That can be one of the banes of the supine. One of the struggles that the supine has is that they will bury anger, and they'll call it hurt feelings, but they don't overly express anger because they don't want to upset people's feelings. They really think of others first, so they have a very hard time letting them go, letting them down, letting them know what they're really thinking. Very indirect. So if you have a child who has this temperament, they're very sincere and sweet, and they really kind of bruise easily when they're corrected, but then they will strongly respond in ways to never do that again. they can become very rigid with themselves and very legalistic with themselves because they want to strictly adhere to rules. They don't want to be a rebel. They will loyally follow whomever the loudest voice is. They will loyally follow scriptures, and to a point where they can become rigid and legalistic if not careful. But when they're the healthiest, they listen the longest. They will sit in a prayer room and they will suffer. They will serve. They will give. They will really loyally be that person who is involved in the group to show up and get things done. They can carry emotional burdens with people. They, by nature, they always ask you, "How can I pray for you?" And man, they do. They're not interested in bearing the responsibility of making decisions for people. They get very stressed out when they have to make decisions for others. So they tend to want to lean on and rely on strong, decisive people, which can go badly if that person's not healthy. So they can be dominated and controlled easily if this person sees and takes advantage of. So some of the counsel I give my golden retriever or supine clients, make sure you socialize with people of high integrity. Make sure you do not associate with people who want to dominate or control you. Make sure you are free to express your needs for love and affection. Make sure that you don't have to send an SOS when you have a need, because the long suffering nature that they have, they can go a long time without asking for something, but then explode in a fury of anger. That's a room clearing anger because something tipped them, because their emotions have stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked and stuffed and stuffed and stuffed and stuffed until boom, it blows. They often come in here because they're feeling guilty, they're overly stressed, or they're unsure of what they need to do. They will be a very loyal client. The problem is they'll have 5 counselors. TikTok, a counselor, another counselor, a biblical mentor. They have many, many people giving them wisdom and guidance. But God made the supine or the golden retriever some of the most close, loving people in the temperament realm.